Welcome back to Keys to Product Creation Success. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the 17 resources you should have for a digital products business. Now, many marketers start out on a shoestring budget, and internet marketing is forgiving. You can create a product, you can actually generate cash because you can generate value for people without having to have a lot of fancy tools and without having to have lots of fancy equipment. However, that does not mean that you need to stay there, and it doesn't mean that you don't need to invest in your business. Internet marketing is a business like any other, and if you're going to be in it for the long term and you want to generate long-term profits, you don't want to spend years using workarounds in your business. And so these are things that we're going to be talking about. They're things that you need to be looking to invest in. So one of the ways to think about this is that this list of things, if you don't have them at any particular time, take a portion of your profits every single time you have a product launch and invest in getting these things. Of course, you need to have your own domain name. You can actually launch a product without having a domain, but you should have a domain name where you have all of your products, where you have a presence for your business. And typically a domain name is probably only going to be $10 at most. Sometimes it might go up to as high as $15, but a domain name is pretty affordable. Definitely, you might not have to start out with one, but you want to get one when you can. Of course, your website needs to have hosting. You want to make sure that domain is hosted on a place where you're paying for the hosting, because you need to be in control of the hosting. If you're going to build a list, you need an autoresponder, something like Aweber or GetResponse, or maybe another autoresponder of choice. This is what you will need to do in order to build a list without spamming people, right? You need to have a website, right? So what we're talking about when we talk about a website, most marketers use a website builder called WordPress because it is flexible. Other marketers use other systems that are available to you. It really is a personal choice, but you want to make sure you have something that you can get to and change, and that you can add to as your business increases or changes. Now, this is going to be pretty important, and it's not going to be obvious at the outset, and it may not be something that you get right away, but you do need to have a way to deliver your product and a place to deliver your product from. Delivering your product from the same place where your site is hosted is not always going to be the wise thing. Sometimes you're going to have files that are going to have fairly large, they'll be fairly large in size, and you don't want to have your customer coming to your site where you have shared hosting and then running into a case where they can't get the file, not because the file isn't available, but because your hosting isn't sufficient. Right? Product delivery hosting are sites like Amazon S3 and other sites where you don't pay a lot for the hosting, but your customer is only going to be going there when they want to get your product. You need to have a place where you can upload those products, especially ones where you're going to have software. You don't want that process, part of your process, to fail. A delivery system. And this basically means that you need to have a way of being able to get your customer to either a members area or a place or a download page, and it needs to be secure, right? So we talked about in the last section, it needs to look good and it needs to be secure so that your customer can get your product, but at the same time, your product won't be floating around out on the black hat forums, right? So a delivery system is something that you need to invest in. And again, you may not have to do that right away, but you do need to invest in something, a membership site or a place. A lot of marketers in the past use Rapid Action Profits. Some use sites like InstaBuilder or Wishlist Member or Digital Access Pass, but you do need to invest in a delivery system, and you want to get one that's going to always work. There will always be lots of new products that come down the pike, but you want to make sure that you get the one that works, that is reliable, right? So even if you have to pay a little more and you don't pay a launch price, get one that's going to work when your customer goes to it. A video player. YouTube is a great way to host your videos. However, as you move up in price, it's probably not necessarily going to always be appropriate for you to use YouTube. Sometimes you're going to want to use a player where you're going to host the video, and you're going to deliver that video through a video player. That's going to require some special third-party software. And again, it's not something that you have to get started, but you do want to invest in it because, again, YouTube is free. And you are subject to whatever rule changes they make. You want to be able to deliver video to your customers the way you want to. Okay? You need a webinar or a broadcast system. There are systems like Webinar Fusion Pro. And you want to have these systems so that you can deliver a webinar at the point whenever you want to, again, to provide more value to your customer. You need video screen recording software like Camtasia. Okay, because you're going to need to make customer service videos. You're going to need to create videos to show people how to navigate your site. You're going to need to make customer service. You're going to need to make videos to sell things, right? And screen capture software is pretty much standard. It's probably should be closer to the top of the list than some of these other things, because you are going to need to create videos where you don't need to appear in it, but you need to communicate to your customer things that they need to know and they need to do that are happening on your computer screen. You need Camtasia. ScreenFlow is another one. Obviously, you can get some of the cheaper versions that do some of what these programs do, but in the long run, Camtasia or ScreenFlow, eventually, as a marketer, you are going to need it. An HTML editing program. So you need a software. There are free programs available like InView.com, Composer.com. All of those are HTML editors. You can get a paid version such as Dreamweaver with Adobe, but again, you do need to have one. And if the free versions don't do what you need them to do, you are going to have to upgrade to something like Dreamweaver. A graphics editor. So you need to be able to use something like Photoshop. That is the industry standard. However, there are substitute programs like Paint.net and GIMP until you can afford it. But eventually, if you're going to have someone working for you, you're going to put together more complex graphics. Photoshop is the standard for a graphics editor. You need a mic, right, and a headset. So just standard practice for an internet marketer. You can get a USB mic. You can get a headset. It's really a preference. If you're doing a lot of live broadcasting, sometimes you want to get a headset because of the latency involved with the USB. However, the newer that your computer system is, that latency is not going to be a problem with the USB mic. Right, so make sure that you have a mic or a headset, and you really can't even record a course without them. So that's the minimum you are going to need to do. So you're probably going to need to have that even before you start recording your course. Don't use your computer speaker microphone where you don't have a controlled area to speak into. Don't use that to create a product. Make sure you get a microphone or a headset in the microphone. When you need a webcam and some lighting, right? Because you want to make a personal appearance in your video or in your webinar. Again, doesn't have to be there at the beginning, but again, you need to be able to make connections with your customer. And you can do that by making sure that you have a webcam. Many laptops kind of have it coming bundled. Right, so you're probably going to find that you're going to have that coming with your PC. If you don't, there are great webcams available made by Logitech. That use minimal computer resources and then shoot in high definition. Okay, you're going to need high-speed internet. Now, again, I realize that that kind of goes without saying, or the highest speed that you can possibly get. You're going to need to upload things. You're going to need to download things. You're going to need to be able to do webinars. And the only way you're going to be able to do those things is for you to have the high-speed internet. And so, whatever you can pay for, as soon as you can afford it, you need to get it. Right? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have the most expensive just to have it. But the more that you're going to be doing, especially broadcasting, you want to have a fast upload speed. Okay, and we talked about screen capture software, pretty much the same thing as video screen recording software. And then you want to make sure that you have a PLR membership, and that is for the primary purpose for you to be able to get and deliver bonuses. So make sure you have a source of resale rights content for you to be able to deliver unique content and software bonuses. Okay, and then lastly, typically you're going to need to have a graphic subscription of some kind in order to create good graphics for your products, good graphics for your services, and for the sales process, and even for your product design. Graphics are necessary, and you can buy a graphic subscription from places like iStockPhoto. Those are places that are going to be fairly expensive. You can get them a little more affordable at places like Clipart.com and Graphicstock.com. Okay, so those are the 17 resources you should have for your digital products business. I realize that was a lot. There are links in this video for you to visit so you can take a look at some of these things. But again, the way to look at this is if you don't have them, look to make it part of your budget to invest in them as soon as you have the cash flow to be able to do it. Maybe do it one at a time as you do each particular launch. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video.